Youth Sports Network presents TouchDown Ontario with Devin Gilmore McNeil.
Welcome back to the NCAFA Roundup Episode 2 here on TouchDown Ontario. I'm joined by my guests Jesse Card and Russell Silverson. I'm Devin Gilmore McNeil. Gentlemen, we're headed on to week 4 now in the NCAFA season, another week down, the first week of varsity down on Friday night. I just want to start with opening thoughts now that we head into week 4. Jesse, I'll start with you. What were your takeaways from the weekend?
Well, I got to go out Friday night and check out the U19 varsity. It was the first week of games last Friday. So every Friday night at Minto Sportsplex, Minto Field, we're going to have double headers at the U19 level now. So my takeaway was we get to see these teams for the first time, getting a lot of these players back from the OSFL seasons. It takes some time to shuffle out the rosters and figure out, where people are going to play. But we did get to see Canada. We did get to see the high-powered offense on Canada that we talked about last week. And for sure, they're for real. They're going to be a tough team to beat this year. They were playing against that Nepean Broncos team, which we know were a little late to get their rosters finalized. So I think that team will get better over the season. It looked like, they hadn't had a whole lot of practice time to put that team together. They're working with a pretty short playbook. So I think moving forward, we're going to see how that Nepean squad starts to actually react after the first season, after they've been after the first week and they've seen some live action. But Canada definitely is going to be a team that's going to continue to roll. The other game that we got to see was the Norsemen versus the Giants, and that one was actually pretty close. Norsemen squeaked out that win, but definitely a lot of athleticism on both sides. So I think those teams are going to be battling with Canada all year, and like I said, we'll see how Nepean kind of reacts throughout the rest of the season. They're kind of in an inflection point where they can continue to struggle, or they can really work hard, dig in, and start to make some competitive games in their season.
Yeah, and more on varsity later. We'll kind of do a breakdown, a more deeper dive, as you would say. But I did get to see Wanda Keenan, our media correspondent, had an interview after the game with the Nepean Broncos, and they did say they only had about 2 weeks to practice. And I think watching their tape and playing a juggernaut like Canada, I think there's definitely some room to improve there, and they have a lot of young players on their roster that they're excited about. But it's always nice to see Wanda down at field level getting the interviews with these players and kind of getting the inside scoop on some of these teams.
Well, and Wanda's been taking photography for the league, and primarily she's been out of the Bell Warriors club for a couple decades, and her boys played through the program at Bell. Everyone knows her, everyone loves her. This year is the first time that she's really pushed the envelope where she's starting to do interviews with players, and you can see that she's loving it. She really is. She's walking around. She's networking all the time, and we're just really thankful that Wanda's part of this community, part of the league.
Absolutely, we love Wanda. But switching gears now, Russell, it's great to have you on. Doing some correspondent work with us this season and getting out to some NCAFA games. We know that you got out to, believe it was the Myers-Bell game at Bantam. Kind of what were your takeaways going to see some of that action over the weekend?
It was a strong first half by the Riders. They kind of just came right out of the gate. I think it was 21-zip at halftime. They really didn't give the Warriors much to work with. They closed their gaps well, good defensively. The second half, they slowed down a bit, but by the time second half was over, the game was pretty much done, and they closed out 29-7. So if they can play like they did in the first half all game, they probably would have had 60 points. They had an amazing game, and they've had an amazing season now. They're already 3-0 in the season. They're one of the 4 undefeated teams on the season, and I can't wait to see them play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and taking a deeper look at Bantam, obviously it's great to have, because the established rivalry in Ottawa is always going to be Myers versus Cumberland, and to have those two teams looking like kind of the top dog in the East and the top dog in the West, and both being undefeated, I think that just creates the culture and the rivalry that we're so used to here in the NCAFA. But you can't discount teams like the Raiders and the Knights, and how about the South Ottawa Mustangs? Jesse, I know you wanted to kind of touch on them quick, but man, have they looked sharp, especially on the offensive side of the ball the first few weeks.
Yeah, so the game that I've kind of highlighted is going to be Sunday, and the 2-0 Mustangs at Bantam are coming in to face the 3-0 Raiders. So this is one that if you want to get out this weekend, I would say Friday night, because it's a real great atmosphere and you're going to run into a lot of people from the NCAFA community. It's more of a social as it is, a football game that you're watching. But if there's a second one, it's going to be that Sunday out at the Raiders field down on off of Leitrim. The Mustangs, with just 2 wins, no team scored any points on them so far, and 166 points for, versus the Raiders, 107 points for, and also no points scored against. So we've got, this is an opportunity for basically 2 and 3 to battle it out and just kind of see where they stand in the East. But we know that, the real test is going to be when they have to go through Cumberland. And then, as you mentioned, like out west, we're looking at Myers again, which historically the Bantam Myers program always have a lot of pride. They always do well. So, it's interesting going into week 4 how things are shaking out.
Yeah, and then kind of just wrapping up Bantam, I know, Jesse, you kind of touched on it there quick, but Russell, I know you kind of wanted to mention that Cumberland Panthers team and how good they've looked at Bantam so far this season.
Yeah, they've just been unbelievable. I mean, over 200 points scored throughout 3 games, only 2 touchdowns against, and that came in their most recent game last week. They didn't allow any points in the first 2 games, only 2 touchdowns in the second, and it didn't really matter because they were winning by such large margins. I don't know. They haven't faced one of the top dogs teams yet. They haven't played South Ottawa. They haven't played the Raiders. They haven't played the Riders, and they're not going to play them in the regular season. So they're only going to face these teams coming into the playoffs. So I wonder if maybe they're going to get a little too much in their head playing these not as quite strong teams, and I wonder if that maybe coming playoff time, if that's going to catch up to them.
Well, I would say that's a really good point, Russell. These teams that kind of walk through the season, a lot of times the pressure mounts on them. All eyes are on them. And then if you do have a competitive game, that upset is really, really embarrassing sometimes. So that can get to the coaching staff's heads and also the players. But what would you say, what are some of those tactics that the team can do to ensure that they're going to be ready come playoff time? Russell?
I mean, just don't let it get to your head too much. I mean, you're the best team in the league for a reason, but don't let that fool you. I mean, there's also some great other teams just right underneath them. And, they got to watch the film. They got to be ready to take on these teams when it comes. It's not going to be soon, but they are going to play these teams at some point. And I think watching film and just not getting too ahead of yourself, don't count your chickens before they hatch type of thing, is the key for their success.
Yeah, obviously they took care of business against my beloved Wildcats on Monday, on Labor Day. I just kind of wanted to point that out, though. The community atmosphere on Monday in Cornwall, here in Cornwall, still live in Cornwall, so getting to see all those people out on Monday watching those games, and obviously coming up short on 3 of the games against Cumberland on Monday, but they did get 1 win at Tyke. But the community atmosphere is alive and well in the NCAFA, and seeing all the people out on Monday.
Devin, did you see the entry
that
one of the Cumberland teams came out? They had the smoke bombs.
Oh, yeah.
They ran through the sign. I mean, I think I'm looking at something in Texas here when I see that out in Cornwall.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, that's great, guys. Bantam is alive and well. Love seeing all these undefeated teams and kind of these matchups to look forward to later in the season, like Russell said, especially when playoff time comes around. And hey, we're rolling, right? We're into week 4 now, and teams kind of are establishing their identity and are kind of ready to go. But before we move on to varsity, I kind of wanted to touch on kind of a breaking and big tragic story throughout NCAFA that came out this weekend. Bell Warriors had a tragic thing happen over the summer. One of their younger players in the Tyke division unfortunately passed away tragically. Jose Burpee, who was a Tyke player for the Bell Warriors, passed away earlier this summer. But I want to say just a great initiative and a great rallying cry by the NCAFA community and specifically the Bell Warriors organization for having those 45 stickers being put on all of their players' back of their helmets, honoring Jose. And what we ask of kind of the entire NCAFA community is, dedicate this season to Jose Burpee and Jose Burpee's family. I loved seeing the picture of Jose's brother Godslight wearing Jose's 45 jersey. And it's just it's great to see the community and the family that NCAFA truly is, right? Some things are bigger than football, and obviously just a tragic story, but something that we can kind of all get behind and rally together. And Jess, I kind of wanted to throw it to you to get your thoughts as a former Bell Warrior and being so close to that organization. What's the vibe there, and kind of like, how important is it for the community to rally together after something so tragic like this?
Yeah, it's really, really disheartening to hear about that. And, thoughts and prayers go out to Jose's family. In terms of the community, I kind of touched on it when I was there Friday night. Whether or not you're affiliated with one of those varsity teams and those double headers, people are coming out and you get to see the same folks year after year. One story just this weekend is Chris Leonard, who's taking care of the scheduling, and he's the VP of operations on the executive for NCAFA. He ran into Mr. Schaefer, who's a longtime coach, whose son played through the Bell Warriors program, went off to Queens as a linebacker, had a great career at U Sports. It's the first time that they had seen each other since Chris recruited Terry to actually be a flag or non-contact coach back when Curtis was maybe probably 6 or 7 years old. Those are the stories that make NCAFA and this community special. And, I think that what Jose's parents can expect at the Warriors, and not only just the Warriors, but the entire community, is that that we're here for you, we're here to support, and we're here to rally in a time of immense difficulty. So, like I said, condolences about the tragic tragedy that happened this summer, and I think the Warriors are a good example. In fact, just on Friday, I went over to one of the Bantam coaches, Scotty Statham's restaurant in Bell's Corner, Scotty's Corner Diner. I had seen a video where a local member of parliament actually went out there and featured his restaurant, and it made me think I got to go back and see Scotty. So I went in and we caught up, and he's still coaching. His son has long graduated from NCAFA and aged out. He's working with them now at the diner, but I think everyone just comes together to support the program. And when there's a need, in a football program, whether it's the Warriors or the Myers or Cumberland or, Kempville, people will fill those voids. And even if you're not coaching, you're never that far removed from the club, and you're there at a moment's notice to step in and help. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the National Capital Amateur Football Association. And I think, some of the messaging that we should be putting out is that, the way we treat officials, the way we treat each other as coaches and players, and the leadership we show for these young, children and youth that are playing this sport, that takes precedent over any sort of other goals, wins, touchdowns, anything like that. And Jose, maybe we can all use that as a reminder of that.
Yeah, and I think it puts everything into perspective, and like I mentioned before, some things are bigger than football, and obviously this is way, way bigger than football. And just want to reiterate what Jesse said, our condolences from the TYSN team to Jose's family, the Bell Warriors, and the entire NCAFA community. The 2024 season is without a doubt, being honored for Jose for the entire season. So our condolences, and we know that we're going to rally together and be a strong family like NCAFA always is. But shifting gears to the varsity division, we touched on it in the opening. Two big games, just like you said, Canada handling their business, taking care of the Broncos like they should. But one thing I wanted to touch on in that game is Nepean actually came out flying against Canada. I think it was the third play of the game. It was about a 70-yard touchdown bomb of a throw from Nepean's quarterback. So, that underdog mentality, they had it, and then obviously the talent, maybe the cohesiveness kind of shifted away later as the game went on. But just kind of wanted to mention again, watch out for the Broncos as they get, some coaching under them and get some continuity going, that, they're not completely out of it yet 1 week down, right? And they showed early in that game that they have some fight in them. But you look at Canada, I mean, Jeremiah Hay at the tailback position for Canada, just going bonkers like he always does. We've seen him in multiple different jerseys throughout his NCAFA and Football Ontario kind of career, but he is just a staple at that tailback position for Canada, and really can't say enough enough about Adam Gilmore and what he does with his staff for the Knights. They're always ready to go, always prepped and have a great game plan going to win. But then you shift gears, Jesse, you said as well, Bel Air playing North Gloucester, and Bel Air's kind of been knocking on at that doorstep for the last few years, trying to get on that board and try and win a varsity championship. And, they pitch a shutout. They pitch a shutout against the Giants, and we mentioned it, last week, Jesse. The Giants' defense is always going to keep them in games. They just need more out of that offense, man. And you were there, Jess. What was your takeaway? Not so much about the Nepean game. We kind of touched on that already. They're just getting their feet under them to start the season. What did the Giants need to do, and how much was the shutout the Giants not executing on offense, and how much was it, how good of that Bel Air Norseman defense was?
I think a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. It was a battle. It was back and forth. I mean, field position was pretty steady. There weren't huge swings in field position. The Giants did have the ball, in Norseman territory with an opportunity to put some points up a few times, more than a few times, and they failed to do so. So I think it really was a good test for the Norseman defense, and they passed with flying colors. But I just think week one, there's just so much retooling that needs to happen. I think a lot of players are being tried at different positions. But certainly some standouts that I noticed. I would talk about the middle linebacker for the North Gloucester Giants, Daniel, and number 55. He was just flying around like noticeably fast and aggressive. And he was scraping behind the line, coming downhill 45 degrees to make some pretty amazing and impressive looking tackles. So there are some ballers. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. So now, week 2, 3, 4, 5 at varsity, we need to see what the coaching's like, because if they don't make improvements week to week and correct those issues, then we know it's probably more about coaching. There's a funny adage that, when coaches get around after the game, if they lose, it's usually the player's fault, and if they win, it's the coaching that got it done. So that's what I think will be on display over the next little while in this very small U19 varsity division is the coaching. We're watching the coaching here. And when you get, a head coach like Adam Gilmore, who's been dedicated to the program for so long, they take it seriously. They're prepared. They've got, somebody up basically communicating through wireless device down to the sideline. When they bring that professionalism to it, the kids get excited. They love that. So, we're going to see what teams can kind of retool over the next few weeks and start putting some points on the board. And we might get, like you said, a fairly competitive 4-team division this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, make sure you go back out to the Nepean Sportsplex this Friday night. Same thing, doubleheader for the rest of the season. Games start at 6:30 and 8:30. This weekend this Friday, I should say, we have Canada versus the Giants kicking things off at 6:30, which should be a great game, kind of a defensive slugfest, I'd say there. And then you have the Broncos taking on the Norsemen at 8:30, which will be a good game. We'll see if the Broncos get some more continuity under them, and that'll be kind of a good cap off at the night at the Nepean Sportsplex. And Jesse said before, I mean, just go out and enjoy some football, enjoy some community time. I mean, you see everybody out on those Friday nights, Jess, at the Sportsplex. Loved hearing Steve in the booth, getting the crowd going with the music and announcing, doing a great, phenomenal job. And obviously all those games are filmed as well. So, that division is really, for such a small division too, I think the rivalries are even more key. And like you mentioned, Jesse, the coaching is so important because you're going to play these teams, 3 times in a year? Like throughout the whole season, you're going to play these teams 3 times. So it's really about those coaching adjustments, and each team knows everybody. So that's why I think it's such an interesting division. But make sure everybody goes out, watches the games at the Nepean Sportsplex this weekend or this Friday night, and it's just a great atmosphere. But just to kind of wrap up the varsity division, I wanted to give a shout out to the players of the week at varsity. So on the defensive side of the ball, you had Sean Mullen for the Canada Knights. Obviously, they stuffed Nepean pretty good after that first drive. That's the only touchdown they scored, which I mentioned, that long bomb of a touchdown, only one they scored. Sean Mullen, linebacker for the Knights. Also seen him in the OSFL doing great things for the Panthers. So he had 4.5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack, named Defensive Player of the Week. And then on the offensive and special team side of the ball, Bel Air Norseman, Shalom Iboru, fullback for the Bel Air Norseman, who had over 130 all-purpose yards. Really big, tough runner for the Norseman, number 34. And then on special teams, you have Xavier Goulet, who is perfect on PATs and actually hit a 36-yard field goal, which is pretty good for that age group, and also helped out on the return game. So congratulations to the Varsity Players of the Week. Love seeing all throughout NCAFA every week, the Players of the Week from Tyke all the way up to varsity. I think it's a really cool thing to see, the little ones getting recognized, and then also, people who are trying to play at the next level getting recognized. So I think it's kind of two things there where it's like, you're getting recognized to, hopefully extend your career to the next level. And then the Tykes just, I see on social media all the time the parents going crazy, like loving it, seeing their kids on there, getting recognized as Player of the Week. And what I wanted to mention too is at those younger age groups, it's not necessarily about how what your statistical line was in your game. It's really about showcasing all the young athletes we have throughout Eastern Ontario, and how big and diverse of a league we have now, and getting to recognize, like I seen, yesterday it come out, there was players from every team recognized pretty much over the weekend that played in the game. There was players from every team. So hats off to NCAFA for doing that initiative, and I think it's really cool to see each weekend.
Yeah, gives everyone a boost, and I start seeing these names reoccur week after week, and it just helps you in such a massive league direct your attention. You see this, this fullback for Norseman, for instance. Like, I'm going to be watching him a little bit more closely on Friday night because of that Player of the Week nomination. So definitely great. Keep those up.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, before we kind of wrap things up, I kind of wanted to get everyone's final thoughts and kind of what their expectations are for the rest of the season. Russell, we'll start with you. What are you looking for the rest of the season as a kind of a new NCAFA correspondent, new NCAFA media guy, getting out there, hopefully seeing some more games? What are you hoping to see for the rest of the NCAFA season?
Just a lot of touchdowns, big hits, big touchdowns, field goals, all of it. I'm very excited to keep doing this with you guys. I'm just excited to watch some good teams play some good football.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to see a lot of that for sure. We talked about it in the lead for sure. Jesse, I know, kind of your wrap up, but I know you kind of wanted to touch on those younger divisions as well before we kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, I just think, Friday night's where the weekend starts, these doubleheaders at varsity. So I would say if you're playing on Saturday or Sunday, come on out, wear your jersey. That's going to be a lot of fun those Friday nights. I'm going to try to get out to see some of these games. I'm going to pick a few. I'm going to bring the kids out, get a hot dog. So it's always a great community atmosphere, especially to get out in September before the weather turns. Overall, just really excited to be in it now. A lot of preparation, and and now we're able to have some fun, watch football, like Russell said.
Absolutely. Well, week 4, gentlemen, is on the horizon, and can't wait to watch some more NCAFA football. A lot of great matchups that Jesse alluded to earlier in the episode to look out for this weekend. And hey, the season goes on, man. The NFL kicks off tomorrow night. It is officially football weather throughout the province, throughout the world. Everyone's, gung-ho about football right now. Some of the best of it is here in the Ottawa area, so make sure you get out on Friday nights. Check out some of the action. Like Jesse said, it's a great place to bring out the family and to watch some of the athletes that are going to be playing at the next level for the GGs and the Ravens, and you're going to remember these names and have a really great time watching football. So I think we'll leave it with that, gentlemen. I think we're good to go here, and thanks for joining us on episode 2 of the NCAFA Roundup. For Jesse Card and Russell Silverson, I'm Devin Gilmore McNeil, and thanks for watching.